In part 1 of our 3-part recap of Horizon Zero Dawn's story, we talked about the general lore and backstory of Horizon Zero Dawn, while also speaking of some of the events that take place in the first few hours of the game, up until the point where Aloy is made a Seeker after the Proving. In part 2, we will follow Aloy on her journey as she travels to Meridian to look for Olin and get some much needed answers to a lot of burning questions. But before we move ahead, please be aware, spoilers ahead. Meridian is unlike any other place Aloy has ever seen. The Carja are known for making glorious cities, and for good reason too. Meridian is a perfect illustration of their abilities. In the middle of a desert and surrounded by canyons, desert forests and oases, Meridian is a beautiful city, unmatched in terms of grandeur and scale, boasting tall buildings, countless bridges, beautiful architecture and countless landmarks. One of its most prominent and noteworthy landmarks is the Spire, a tall monolithic tower made of steel, towering over the city and the entire canyon. The Spire can be seen from a long distance away across the desert, and it's almost synonymous with the beauty and luster of Meridian. When Aloy gets to Meridian, and she seeks out Erend, and when she tells him about Olin and his possible involvement with a group that attacked the Nora, Erend is obviously taken aback, especially since Olin is a friend of his. Regardless, he agrees to help look for him. The two of them investigate his house and discover that Olin is indeed working with the killers, but also that he's only doing so because they're holding his family hostage. Thanks to some helpful pointers given to her by Erend, Aloy is successful in finally locating Olin at a dig site. When Aloy gets there though, she realizes that Olin is not alone. A large group of the same mysterious killers that attacked the Nora's sacred land is there with him. Even worse, all of them are wearing focuses, meaning that they can possibly track and sense Aloy if she gets too close. And it's not just these killers by themselves either. A few corruptors, apparently under their control, are also in the area with them as well. What exactly are corruptors? They're machines that have the ability to corrupt other machines, which essentially means that they can override other machines and bring them under their own control. Just as Aloy is about to come to terms with the fact that she's heavily outnumbered and in turn probably completely helpless here, something unprecedented and very unexpected happens. A man's voice speaks to her, into her ears through her focus. He tells her that he is an interested party and remotely disables the focuses of all the soldiers in the dig site. Aloy is obviously mistrustful of him, but questions about this man and how he's able to communicate with her are not a priority for her right now. She sees an opportunity and she grabs it. With their focuses disabled, Aloy manages to kill all the soldiers and destroy the corruptors, at which point she finally comes face to face with Olin. Olin tells Aloy that the group of mysterious killers is actually the Eclipse, a religious fanatical cult that also happens to secretly lead the Shadow Carja behind the scenes, the rebel sect that broke off from the Carja after the Mad Sun King's death. The man who almost killed Aloy at the Proving and is responsible for Rost's death is Helis. The Eclipse, Olin reveals, adhere to a mysterious entity known as Hades, who they call the Buried Shadow from ancient Carja mythology. Hades, as it turns out, is who or what gives the Eclipse the ability to not only control and corrupt machines, but also to revive machines that have already been dead. One such type of machine that the Eclipse have been trying to excavate and revive is the Deathbringer. It's as ominous and dangerous as it sounds. This leads Aloy to the conclusion that the Eclipse are trying to build up an army, not just of Deathbringers, but all sorts of machines, presumably to destroy the Carja and take back Meridian. When Aloy presses Olin for more information, he tells her that that is all he knows about Hades. He's never actually seen it, but he tells her that he has indeed heard its voice once before, when it first saw Aloy through Olin's focus, right before the Proving, and identified her as a threat. Olin describes Hades' voice as the metallic, evil voice of a devil. Aloy, however, is more interested in other information. She demands to know more about the woman she had seen earlier, the woman who looks basically like an older version of herself. Olin tells Aloy that he has no idea who the woman is, but does inform her that he has seen a picture of her before, in some ruins of the old ones at a place called Maker's End. And so Aloy heads to Maker's End, and that is where Horizon Zero Dawn starts revealing some massive revelations, as the mysteries behind the machines, the mysterious woman, and everything else start unraveling. At Mother's End, Aloy fights off against a number of Eclipse soldiers and Eclipse-controlled machines, and eventually she finally makes it into the ruins, and in there she makes some stunning discoveries. The woman that Aloy has been looking for is called Dr. Elizabeth Sobek, and she's been dead for over 1,000 years. It all started 1,000 years ago with a man named Ted Faro, who was the CEO of a company known as Faro Automated Solutions, or FAS. At first, FAS was known throughout the world for its construction of green robots and environment cleanup and detoxification projects, which were spearheaded by a young, brilliant scientist named Elizabeth Sobek. Close to the end of the 2040s, FAS had become the richest corporation in the world. As per Ted Faro's wishes though, FAS moved away from their environmental projects and instead started working on military robotic contracts. As a sign of protest, Elizabeth Sobek left FAS. Over the next 20 years, FAS built and sold countless military robots known as peacekeepers to its clients, ranging from private militaries and nations to trans-governmental organizations and corporations, while also covertly facilitating global conflicts to increase their own business and profits and sales of these machines. In 2064 though, something unexpected happened, something that changed the course of history forever. Ted Faro discovered a glitch in the machines that was causing them to go haywire. The machines had been built to be able to consume biomass in small quantities to be able to fuel themselves in emergencies. What's more, they were even capable of self-replication, and also had the ability to hack into other automated machines and weapons and bring them under their own control, quite like the Corruptors. And quite predictably, things went very, very wrong. The glitch in the system of the Peacekeeper robots severed their chain of command protocols, meaning that they no longer answered to anyone but themselves. The Peacekeepers started consuming biomass in large, frightening quantities, while also replicating at an extremely high rate. Due to the glitch, which went on to be known as the Faro Plague, they were now ignoring stand-down commands. And thanks to the fact that, by Faro's own commands, there was no backdoor built into their programming, FAS programmers had no means to shut them down or regain control. Desperate to put a stop to this catastrophe before word got out of how exactly it had even started, Ted Faro contacted Dr. Sobek, asking her to look for a solution. Elizabeth Sobek discovered that at the rate the machines were consuming biomass and replicating themselves, they would strip the Earth completely clean with a frighteningly short time of 15 months. Not just of humans, but of everything. All of its flora and fauna. Life would simply cease to exist. Things clearly were not looking good, but Elizabeth managed to do exactly what Faro had expected her to do. She came up with a way to stop the swarm of machines, which came to be known as the Faro Swarm. How? Through something known as Project Zero Dawn. However, Zero Dawn, whatever it was, didn't sit right with Ted Faro. He balked at the audacity and extremity of whatever it was that Zero Dawn entailed, and at first he refused to sign off on the idea. Elizabeth, however, told him that he had no choice. Either he signs off on Zero Dawn and agrees to fund the project, or else Elizabeth reveals to the entire world that Ted Faro is responsible for the Faro Plague. To save his own ass, Faro gave in and agreed, after which Elizabeth Sobek told him that she was heading to US Robot Command to discuss these new developments with the powers that be. But what is Project Zero Dawn? Clearly, Elizabeth Sobek was successful in her attempts to build whatever it was, otherwise the world would be completely ruined, and there would be no life on Earth whatsoever. But what exactly was it? That is exactly what Aloy doesn't know, and exactly what she needs to find out if she's to connect all the dots. The derangement, the eclipse, Elizabeth Sobek, the attack at the Proving, it's all clearly connected. And the key to finding all the answers to Aloy's questions is clearly this Project Zero Dawn. The mysterious man who had contacted Aloy earlier through her focus contacts her again, Upon being questioned, he tells her his name is Silence, and describes himself as a lone wanderer who left his tribe a long time ago in search of knowledge and answers to some very important questions. For years, Silence has been singularly focused on uncovering the mystery of what happened to the Old Ones, and what brought about their fall. He tells Aloy that there is a chance that Elizabeth Sobek might still be alive, citing the medical and technological advancements that the Old Ones had made as the reason for this belief. He passingly mentions cryogenics as a method that Dr. Sobek may have used to keep herself alive. Clearly, Silence is not someone who can be trusted, but seeing as his interests and those of Aloy's are currently aligned, Aloy decides to go along with whatever it is he is doing. She decides to follow the trail of Elizabeth Sobek and head for US Robot Command, a place that is now another one of the Old One's ruins and is now known as the Grave Horde. When she arrives at the Grave Horde, she fights off an entire horde of Eclipse soldiers, as well as their corrupted machines, and after doing so, she finally makes it into the ruins. Inside, Aloy learns of something known as Operation Enduring Victory. 1,000 years ago, Operation Enduring Victory was the unified global war effort that was designed to fight against and push back the Faro swarm, in order to give Elizabeth Sobek and her team the time to build Zero Dawn, which the entire population of the world at large believed to be a superweapon that would help defeat the machines. The human race suffered unspeakable losses, numbering in the billions, as a result of Operation Enduring Victory. The machines were too many and too powerful to be defeated through conventional warfare. What's worse, the collective armies of the world couldn't use most of the technological advancements they had made to their advantage in combat against the Faro swarm. Not only did the robots have the ability to self-replicate and consume biomass as fuel, but they also had the ability to hack into and take control of other machines. Basically, anything automated that was thrown at the Faro swarm, they would hijack and take over. Robots couldn't do the fighting for Operation Enduring Victory. They had to rely on old-fashioned military tactics, which obviously wasn't working out for them very well. But the people who fought in the operation were motivated. They were ready to give up their lives because they knew that doing so would help buy more time for Elizabeth Sobek and her team to complete Zero Dawn, the superweapon that would win the war. But what the hell is Zero Dawn? Well, we still don't know. Aloy is contacted by Silence once again, and the two determine that to find out what Zero Dawn was, Aloy will have to find and travel to an orbital launch base that was being used as a base of operations by Elizabeth Sobek and her team for the development of Zero Dawn. That, however, is easier said than done, because the ruins of the launch base are located directly underneath the palace at Sunfall, which is the capital city of the Shadow Carja regime, and hence would be teeming with members of the Eclipse. And it's not even as if Aloy can sneak past them. Why, you ask? Well, because all of these Eclipse agents would be wearing focuses, meaning that the moment they saw her, Hades would see her too, and that would be the end of, well, everything she and Silence had been working towards. Aloy tells Silence to simply disable their focuses, just as he did back at the dig site when he first came into contact with her. Silence, however, tells her that it's not that simple. This time around, at Sunfall, there would be way too many focuses in a single place, meaning that there'd be an entire network of them, and taking down an entire network remotely would be next to impossible. Aloy asks him if there's a way to crash the network, and Silence tells her that that might indeed be possible, thanks to the fact that there's a weak point in the network. Silence sends the location data of the weak point to Aloy's focus, and sends her to head there. When she reaches the place, she sneaks and fights her way through countless Eclipse soldiers, before ultimately getting to the physical location of the network's weak point. When she gets there though, she finds out, much to her surprise, that Hades is also in the area. She hears its voice, identifying her as a threat to itself, and as Aloy destroys the focus network of the Eclipse, Hades orders every machine and Eclipse soldier in the vicinity to kill Aloy. Somehow, after an intense sequence that sees Aloy fighting and fleeing her way through the Eclipse encampment, where she has more close calls than you can count on your fingers, Aloy manages to escape. Once she does, however, she furiously blames Silence for knowingly sending her into an area where he knew Hades would be as well, and in turn knew would be extremely dangerous for her. Silence admits to this, and tells her that it was a risk that had to be taken. Aloy's belief that Silence cannot be trusted becomes stronger, but with the Eclipse's focus network now down, she can concentrate on what's most important, getting to the Zero Dawn launch base in Sunfall. And that's it for part 2. When we come back for the third and final part, we will finally find out the complete nature and secrets of Project Zero Dawn. We'll take a look at the remaining events of the game, including of course its conclusion, while answering all your burning questions. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily, so make sure you don't miss them by subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for checking us out.